1997, a year of change, new cars and 14 events. The FIA World Rally Championship began in Monte Carlo and victory went to the new Subaru. Piero Liatti took his first win in the series and was immediately congratulated by twice world champion Carlos Sainz. Round 2, Sweden. Subaru again victorious, with the Ford Escort of Sainz second. This time though, the winner was Kenneth Eriksson. Round 3, Kenya's Safari Rally. Subaru win again, but there was retirement for Eriksson and Sainz. The top 3, Ian Duncan's Toyota, Richard Burns' Mitsubishi, and the third winner in as many events, Colin McRae.
And 6 right over crest, 70.
Round 4, Portugal. All change, Mitsubishi dominated the rally. Subaru fell apart, allowing the Toyota of Freddie Leutz to finish second. There were retirements for Sainz and McRae. And the year's fourth winner, Tommy Mäkinen. Round 5, Spain, the first tarmac rally of the year. Local hero Sainz had a miserable time, finishing outside the points. The Formula 2 Peugeots gave the regulars a fright, but in the end it was Liatti who finished second, with Mäkinen taking his second win of the year. Round 6, France. Ford's number 2 driver Armin Schwartz faced problem after problem and was dropped by the team after the rally. Mäkinen retired after a bizarre accident when he hit a cow and plunged off a cliff. The Peugeots fought it out until the end, but it was Sainz who again finished second, with Subaru claiming victory for the fourth time. For McRae, win number 2. Round 7, Argentina. Another victory for Tommy Mäkinen, with Colin McRae second and Kenneth Eriksson third. Halfway through the year, and this is how the Drivers' Championship looked. And so to traditionally one of the toughest events in the championship, the Acropolis Rally in Greece.
What sort of a rally are you expecting here in Greece?
No, it's always quite hard, and let's say especially this year, and I see the roads they are rougher than ever before, so I think it's going to be a very tough rally.
It has been raining a lot during the winter, and here the roads, they don't repair, so...
Still, we have to drive flat out in everywhere, and there's very rough sometimes. It's a little bit too much question of luck, how you can manage to do it.
Certainly in places it is very rough. I mean, you've got normally the roughest stage in Acropolis. It just seems to continue for the whole route this year, so there are places that are as rough as Safari.
I've not done this rally before, so I don't know what to compare it to, but it seems to be a little rougher perhaps than previous years.
Is this once again a battle between you and Tommy Mäkinen?
It looks like it will be. The Ford hasn't been very strong this year. They've been breaking suspension parts, and it's a very rough event, so I don't know how they'll fare up, but it looks like it could be another battle between Subaru and Mitsubishi.
And a repeat of last year would satisfy you greatly?
It would do, yeah. We need a win now.
The series return across the Atlantic Ocean to Europe once again. The Acropolis Rally starts and finishes in the capital of Greece, Athens, in the shadow of the ancient monument which gives the rally its name. Championship leader Tommy Mäkinen was the first to leave the start ramp. Ahead of Mäkinen and the other championship contenders, 3 days and 20 special stages in the Greek mountains, on roads only too ready to severely punish the weak and the ill-prepared. Day 1, 7 stages were all south of the town which would host the rally for the next 2 nights, Kamina Vorla. Mäkinen began well. He set or shared the fastest time on 2 of the first 3 stages and had an 8-second lead by the time the cars reached the first service area of the day in the town of Livadia. Colin McRae had been equal fastest on the first stage, and early indications were that he looked likely to repeat his Acropolis victory of last year. It wasn't to be, though. On only the second stage, McRae and his co-driver Nicky Grist were the victims of a seemingly minor incident.
30, 6 left, into 2 right plus tightens line. Into 4 left plus over crest, into bump.
Snap the steering column or something.
Well, hang on, are we going to get out, Col?
No way, no, I need to see, snap the column.
Colin's run a little bit wide and caught a bank, and it's pushed the steering rack hard to one side, and that's caused the end of the steering column to get bent.
Are you advising him to continue?
No, we've advised him to stop now. It's got too bad, so we've advised him to stop.
So he's out?
Yep, he's out.
There's a lot of conversation as if you were trying to get it going again.
Well, we tried, but then it broke again. But we'd lost so much time anyway. I mean, there's hardly any point.
It would be much better to have a good competition with the Colin. That would be good. I don't like it.
But McRae's wasn't the first retirement. This happened to Freddie Loix less than 3 kilometres into stage 1.
Two and a half kilometres into the stage, there's some tarmac corners and he slipped off the road.
Bit of a shame because it's almost the swan song for the car, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the last exclusive outing of the Celica, so it's a bit of a shame, but okay, it can happen 2.5 kilometres from the end of the rally as well, and the drivers are required to push so quickly now to make a result. Freddie's young and he's charged this year with learning, so okay, this is part of the learning process.
Carlos Sainz was the driver who'd shared the lead with McRae after stage 1. With McRae gone, by lunchtime his Ford Escort was in second place behind Mäkkinen's Mitsubishi Lancer. On stage 4, the crowds might not have been enormous, but they were obviously enough to affect Sainz's concentration.
At the beginning it was a lot of spectators and they were in the middle of the road. I have to go a little bit out to avoid one, then damage the exhaust, and running without exhaust, the exhaust damaged the shock absorber, and I lost the shock absorber in the last stage. I lost 1.5 minutes.
Sainz's teammate, Juha Kankkunen, was on only his second event for the Ford team. Retirement in Argentina meant that the 4-times world champion was eager for a good result in Greece. He set the fastest time on stage 4 to move ahead of Sainz, and by the end of stage 6, he'd grabbed the lead. Like Kankkunen, Richard Burns had retired in South America, but unlike the Finn, he was competing on his first Acropolis. Burns was setting some respectable times though. After stage 6, he'd moved up into second place behind Juha. Colin McRae's retirement left Kenneth Eriksson as the only remaining Subaru team driver. Fastest times on stages 4 and 5 early in the afternoon meant that he led the rally going into the 6th stage, but he wouldn't be leading coming out.
Till grön 30. Grön håll vänster, 20 höger 4 kort.
Good, Stefan.
The Impreza struggled on, nearly 8.5 minutes lost. A further 3 minutes were lost on the day's last stage, which meant that Eriksson arrived at the service area in Camina Vurla in 14th place and left his mechanics with the task of rebuilding the car ready for the rigours of the second day. Delicate it wasn't.
Coming in a left-hand corner into a 90 right, and then suddenly the steering got blocked from the steering rack. So I spun that and I stalled. It was quite okay. It was heavy, but I could steer 5 kilometers more. The speed maybe was 120 kilometers because I took a lot of care as well. Normally you go maybe on this place 160 kilometers an hour, but then it got solid again. So I couldn't turn in a corner, so I went on a bank and we rolled on the road.
Greece was one of the last official events for the Toyota Celica. The new World Rally car will compete in Finland, but 5th place Thomas Rodström was proving that there's still life in the old car. 4th placed Carlos Sainz ended the day by setting the fastest time on the last stage, but his suspension problems meant that he was a long way behind the leading trio. The two Mitsubishis ended leg 1 on exactly the same time, but Mäkinen would start leg 2 in second place on account of his being faster on the first stage of the rally. That didn't seem to bother Richard Burns. To share the same time as the world champion is good news, even if he is your teammate. But the rally leader at the end of the first day was the newcomer at Ford. Kankkunen's lead over the Mitsubishi pair of Mäkinen and Burns was nearly 30 seconds, with a total of 3 minutes and 16 seconds covering the top 5 places. All to the west of Camina Vurla, conditions were, if anything, even worse than the previous days. Kankkunen was now running first on the road. He and co-driver Juha Repo arrived at the start of the day's opening test. The Kalamäki stage might have been only 14 kilometres long, but it was about to provide a rude awakening for more than one of the crews. Kankkunen and Repo, though, weren't amongst them. They set the third fastest time through the stage. In fact, a bent steering arm was their only problem all morning. Sainz, in the other Ford Escort, was quickest through Kalamäki. He and Luis Moya were obviously men on a mission, because they set or shared the fastest times on the next 3 stages as well. After stage 11, they'd moved to within a minute and 1 second of their teammates. Richard Burns was second fastest to Sainz on both the first 2 of the day's stages, and shared fastest time with the Spaniard on the third. It was another brilliant drive from the young Englishman, and he and Robert Reid were now in second place once again. After stage 10, they'd closed the gap on Kankkunen to just 17 seconds. But stage 8 provided a few scares for some of the front runners. Thomas Rodstrom tells Denis Giraudet one of the last things a co-driver wants to hear.
To medium left. Bad right tighten.
There's no brakes.
No brakes at all?
No.
Bad right. Bad right tighten. Bad right tighten.
For Kenneth Eriksson, stage 8 would end in retirement. Despite the sterling work done by his mechanics, this would be the last we'd see of him on this particular event.
He landed very badly after a large jump, and the part that broke on the steering, he'd actually replaced himself. But in discussion with him, we found that he hadn't really replaced it himself correctly, or maybe there was some uncertainty about it. He's a long way down the field, and there's just too much risk involved for him to carry on at full rally pace. So we told him to withdraw.
But the Kalamäki stage had one more trick to play. The victim this time was Tommi Mäkinen.
Oikea plus, aukee vettä yli nyppylän ja tupla huomio, lyhyt oikea eri, 15 vasen nopea plus tosi kapea vettä. Vasen eri. Vasen oikea eri kiristyy, lyhyt nopea yli nyppylän.
Unfortunately, on the first stage after service this morning, he got caught out on a slippy section. The car went sideways, hit the bank on one side, cannoned across to the other side, did a fair bit of body damage, pushed the bodywork onto one of the wheels, broke a drive shaft, damaged the suspension, pushed the tracking out, damaged the front of the car.
Luckily, we had spare wheels without brakes. And then after second stage I could fix these brakes, but unfortunately on the last stage we couldn't get the front wheel drive, and so much wheel spin that and tire wearing was very hard on the front, and we couldn't get another wheel out from the car because rear door we couldn't open it.
The works Subarus might have both retired, but there were still 3 Imprezas in the top 10. Italy's Andrea Navarra was 10th. 9th was the identical car of Yukihiko Sakurai, driving for the Subaru All-Stars team. The other Impreza, driven by Masao Kamioka, was 8th. There were also 3 Ford Escort World Rally cars on the leaderboard. The privately run car of Gregoire de Mavius was 7th. Germany's Uwe Nittel was in 6th place in his Mitsubishi Lancer. Then came the only Toyota in the top 10. Thomas Rodstrom's brakes had been fixed, and he was 5th. Tommi Mäkinen's long list of problems after stage 8 had dropped him to 4th. Richard Burns might have had a trouble-free morning, but the afternoon saw his problems start. A spin and time lost searching for the right gear was only the beginning.
30. Slow K right.
straightaway in long, 30.
On the day's last stage, a broken engine mounting caused gear selection problems and then a holed radiator. Burns was forced to stop twice on the road section back to Kaminovola, and he arrived at the day's last service area in a hurry. There were a few anxious faces as the mechanics set to work to repair the car. 24 hours earlier, it had been Subaru. Now it was the Mitsubishi team's turn to race against the clock to repair their car.
Frenando para derecha, bueno, menos se cierran. Para izquierda, buena, se cierra ras y se abre.
Sainz, meanwhile, had had a superb day. Fastest or equal fastest on 6 of the 7 stages, he was now in second place. Kankkunen still led, so Ford held the top 2 places. Before the rally, a Ford 1-2 had been unthinkable. Now just 6 stages were all that stood between the team, and an incredible result. The Ford pair would go into the final day just 37 seconds apart, while the end of his mechanics meant Burns left service with no time penalties and in 3rd place.
Rallies are always
mountains which hosted day 1 before the return to Athens and the finish. A spectacular sunrise greeted the crews, but their thoughts might just have been elsewhere. Once again, it was Kankkunen who led the way into the stages. Amazingly, the rally leader had only been fastest on 1 stage, and even that victory on the first day had been shared with Ericsson. No matter, consistency is what counts in rallying, combined with experience and luck. Juha had an abundance of all 3. Sainz, on the other hand, had the experience and the consistency, but not the luck. His last win had been in Indonesia over a year before, and a string of minor problems had meant that victory had eluded him ever since. On this event, though, he'd recovered to move to within striking distance of Kankkunen. Burns' luck seemed to have run out. He began leg 3 in much the same way he'd ended leg 2.
The stone must have knocked a brake pipe loose on the first stage, so we had to do half of that with no brakes, which was of course the last half down, which was all downhill. And then the car started overheating at the end of the last stage, which may be something to do with what happened yesterday as well.
Nearly there anyway.
Yeah, only 4 of the worst stages in the World Championship to go.
That was no exaggeration. The scenery was merely a disguise. The decision to reverse the leading positions had already been taken by the Ford team. Sainz badly needed a win, and more importantly the 10 World Championship points which went with it. Kankkunen had been brought into the team to support Carlos, and this was the first chance for him to do so. Kankkunen had been told to drive for a finish and preserve the car. If anything should happen to Sainz, it was vital for him to finish in 1st place. If conditions were bad for the championship contenders, they were appalling for the Group N cars. The reigning Group N world champion Gustavo Treyes once again won the category in his Mitsubishi. The conditions also contributed to the only major retirement of the final leg, when the Subaru of 8th placed Masao Kamioka dropped out following a dashboard fire. One of the performances of the day came from Uwe Nittel, 2nd fastest on 2 of the 6 stages, secured 6th place.
The first event for me on gravel with a Group A car, and then when you can finish in the 6th positions, I think it was brilliant.
Sweden's Thomas Rodström finished 5th, despite the brake scare on day 2. The Celica might be coming to the end of its competition life, but the result proved that it's able to compete with the new breed of world rally cars. On the penultimate stage, Sainz took 24 seconds off Kankkunen and moved into the lead for the first time. Just the final 11.2 kilometres now stood between Sainz and the all-important first win of the year. Kankkunen had indeed eased off as requested, and the move was recognised by the spectators on the last stage. Juha Repo's radio message to the team after the stage signalled that the celebrations were about to begin.
Car number 6 to Super 1. Clear the finish. Last stage. Stage number 20. Our time, 8:57. Everything okay, and thank you, guys and boys and girls, very much. You have done an excellent work, and I think we also.
2 minutes later, Sainz was through the stage. Malcolm Wilson's reaction needs no explanation.
Fantastic. Many congratulations.
Do you mind finishing second to Carlos?
No, I don't mind at all. Very good for me because situation a month ago was that I didn't have even any drive. So, very happy moment.
Carlos.
Very happy.
But there were also teams Mitsubishi. Burns deliberately incurred time penalties leaving the final service area so that Mäkinen could finish third and claim an extra point, while Burns himself finished fourth. Confirmation then of the final positions. 2 Fords from 2 Mitsubishis. Carlos Sainz, the winner from Juha Kankkunen, with Tommi Mäkinen third and Richard Burns fourth. The only driver in the top 5 not to be affected by team orders was Thomas Rådström. The Drivers' Championship positions aren't altered by the result in Greece, but things are now a lot closer. Mäkinen's lead is now 10 points, while Sainz is only 4 points behind Colin McRae. In the series for manufacturers, no finishers means Subaru get no points from the Acropolis. They stay on 64 points, while Ford's 1-2 moves them to within 8 points of second-placed Mitsubishi.
After Argentina, you know, it was a little bit disappointed. And for sure, if somebody asks you straight away after a retirement, you feel a bit down. But at the moment, I think we are back in the championship. Of course, it is a long way. We are still a little bit behind, but that result proves many things. And also, I think it will be a real boost for the whole team.
I have to say I'm totally delighted, and for the team and everybody. I mean, it's actually better than winning rallies, believe me. When people know what effort has gone into to getting this team this far, it's just a tremendous amount of satisfaction, and I have to say, yeah, a lot of emotion there.
Andrew, you had to make some tough calls today.
Yeah, I must admit it's been very difficult, and especially since Tommy is such a good sport, and he certainly appreciated that Richard had driven very, very well, and he deserved his third place. But I mean, rallying has become a business, and we've got to look at that 1 point, since our target is to win the Drivers' Championship, and we can't afford to throw away points.
Could Acropolis be the turning point for the Ford team and the new partnership of 2 of the world's top drivers? The championship now takes a 6-week break before the Rally New Zealand. 2 years ago, the winner was Colin McRae, while Tommi Mäkinen's rally came to a premature end.